About 800 people per day move to Florida. Now, have you ever heard of the expression, not everything that shines is gold? Well, Florida is not the exception. Yes, it has a bunch of amazing pros and amazing beautiful things about Florida that I speak about in other videos. So if you want to learn more about the pros of living in Florida, I have a few videos talking about that. But in this video, I want to talk to you about the 10 negative things about living to Florida. So there's a lot of people that move, but there's also a lot of people that move out of Florida. There's a lot of people that leave Florida to other states and to other parts of the country. So in this video, I want to tell you the 10 negative things about living in Florida from my experience. I have been living in Florida since a little kid, over 20 years. So everything I'm going to tell you comes from my personal experience. Anyway, so let's not waste any more time and let's jump into the video right now. Welcome everyone to me and my channel. I make videos every single week talking about Florida, Miami, relocating, tips, things you should know before purchasing, and a whole bunch of different things that you should know, things that will surprise you, things that are gonna help you with your transition down here to Florida. So if you do like what you've seen, please consider subscribing. I come out with videos like this every single week, very important information that I like to talk to you guys about. And also don't forget to click the little bell button so you get notified every single time I come out with a new video. Now if you're thinking about relocating to Miami, please feel free to give us a call. You have my number on the screen. We'll love to hear from you. You can text us, WhatsApp, phone call, or even schedule a private Zoom call with us. My team and I would love to help you get settled down here in Miami. Now let's get started with the 10 negative things about living in Florida. The number one negative thing about living in Florida right now is that everyone is moving down. There's so much people moving down. 800 people, sometimes probably even more than that, right? So after the pandemic, many people open their eyes to Florida. They say, hey, you know what? Outdoors, open spaces, good weather, let's go to Miami. Everyone is moving down. Everyone has been moving down for the last year and a half, 2 years. Lots of people are coming down. Companies are coming down. A lot of tech companies, financial institutions. There's so much going on in Florida. That's a negative thing in my point of view, because it's growing so fast, so quick, at such a fast pace that it's just like, what's going on? Where's my old Florida back, right? I want my old Florida back. There's so much traffic, there's so much people now, what's going on? I think that's a negative thing, and you should know that. You should know that before coming down. Maybe you're one of those people thinking about relocating, which again, it's an amazing place. There's so much pros that I talk about Florida. However, this is definitely one of the negative things you should know, right? You're not gonna be the only one moving down. There's tons of people that are moving down, which could also be a pro, right? But definitely, in my point of view, from a Floridian's point of view, my Miamense point of view, it's a negative thing, right? There's people coming down from all over the world, different states. It's just getting overpopulated in some cities. So of course, that's always gonna be a negative thing, right? You always want your city to stay the way it is. But it's never like that, right? Cities, especially the bigger cities, especially the awesome, great cities like Florida has, they just grow and grow and grow. So that's definitely a negative thing, and you should know a lot of new people coming in, coming out. So that's just something to keep in mind. The second negative thing about Florida, which I'm sure you already know, are bugs. Bugs, some wildlife, but definitely bugs bothers me way more than wildlife. So depending on the area of Florida that you're gonna be living in. So there's all different kinds of wildlife in each side of it, right? But what you're definitely gonna see the most is gonna be bugs because of the weather, right? Bugs love this tropical weather, they love this climate, right? So it's just out of control sometimes, right, with the bugs. Mosquito, you have gnats. It's like you're pretty much just walking and you see a bunch of little bugs everywhere, and you're just walking, you're like, oh my God, what's going on? So much little bugs, little lizards. I don't know about other states, but Miami and some parts of Florida have a lot of roaches, right? I mean, you're next to the ocean, so a lot of older apartment buildings, I've seen roaches in there. So a lot of different bugs. In some areas you'll have snakes, different types of snakes. In many areas of Florida, of course, as you know, you're gonna have gators, right? Crocodiles, gators. Depending where you are. So if you do live in a house and it's close to a lake or close to some type of canal or something with water, be careful, right? I'm sure you already know this, but do be careful. It does happen often that, things get caught on tape, they get caught on camera, and crocodile, and just not good. So just please make sure you watch out, your conscience, that there are snakes in different areas. There's a lot of different animals, right? There's a lot of different wildlife, and like in the Keys, we have different types of deers. In other parts, I've heard all kinds of different things in Tampa, in Naples, in Jacksonville, in the other side by Destin Beach, and by what is the West Coast over there, Pensacola, right? So there's a lot of different, depending where you are, there's gonna be a lot of different wildlife. So just be careful. It is a negative thing in my point of view. I mean, everywhere has these type of wildlife and bugs or whatever, but definitely Florida has even more, right? Because of the weather, even more. So it does get a bit annoying sometimes. You just might have to wear off where you are. You might have to wear some off or some mosquito repellent. So just keep that in mind. The number 3 negative thing about living in Florida is gonna be the weather. In my point of view, it's a pro. But in many people's point of view, it's actually a negative thing. Not everyone can really take all that heat all year round. There's people that are allergic to, I don't know if it's the heat or just allergic to just too much hot weather, or maybe their body doesn't take it. I see there's people that get rashes, there's people that get little bumps, there's people that have like breathing problems. Sometimes there's a lot of pollen in the air, a lot of allergies, right? So it really depends how you take it. A lot of people consider it a negative thing, right? Some people do like a little bit of cold weather. There's people that love the 4 seasons. Right here, there's no 4 seasons, right? At all. So pretty much that's definitely a negative thing, right? You're gonna pretty much have heat all year round. And then of course the best months, like pretty much November to April, around April, those are gonna be the best. That's the best weather, kind of like the winter weather, right? Because it's not too cold at all, it's not too hot, it's just perfect. That's probably the best it gets. But the rest of the year is just gonna be hot, rainy, humid. So again, I'm used to it. I have no problem with this. I've been living here almost my whole life. But there's a lot of people that may have a problem. So you may have to see how your body and how you handle this weather. A lot of people come down with that expectation that's gonna be terrible, and then they end up coming down. They're like, Hans, you know what? It wasn't that bad. I spent a whole year here already. I went through, all the seasons, which is only pretty much 1.5. But they're like, Hans, it wasn't that bad. I could definitely do it. I could definitely take it. So again, there's a lot of people that don't mind it. There's other people that, Hans, I hate it. I had to move out. I had to move somewhere else. I can't. So you're gonna have to see how that affects you in your life. The 4th negative thing about living in Florida, I don't know if you are gonna be renting or buying, but if you're gonna be purchasing a property, the negative thing is insurance. Home insurance kind of sucks down here. I don't know how it is in other states. I really doubt they have the same problem as we do. Why? Because of the storms, because of the hurricanes. I mean, it makes sense, of course. There's been, pretty bad hurricanes that have destroyed many, many, many homes. So of course, all the insurance companies, what's going on right now, there's actually a big fight. It's already in Congress or the Senate. Like, they're already trying to talk about this and try to fix the problem, because a lot of insurance companies are charging a crazy premium for your home insurance. They're charging $6,000, $7,000, $10,000 per year, depending on, of course, on your home. Well, that's a crazy amount. And then on top of that, you have flood insurance, because of course these areas get flooded. Not every single area of Florida gets flooded, but many do. Many areas get flooded. There's like flood maps online that you can find, or you can ask your local real estate agent, someone to help you, or your local insurance agent. There are a lot of flood areas. So not only do you need home insurance, we also need flood insurance, right? So the cost of this is crazy high, and it's actually a problem that's going on right now. Let's just say from what I've seen in my experience and with my clients, they just say $500,000 property average. Insurance depends on a lot of things. It's gonna depend on the roof, if it has impact windows or not, and all of these other things. But let's just say, for example, to give you some numbers, your home insurance per year could probably be around $4,000. Okay, it could be a little bit less, but let's just say an average of $4,000, and then you may have $1,000 more for flood insurance, right? So it could be $4,000 or $5,000 per year on an average home. It's a lot of money per month extra on your mortgage and on top of your taxes and all of these things that many other states, I'm assuming, does not have all of these crazy high insurances. So a lot of insurance companies are leaving, or they're charging extra high because of what's going on, and it's like a whole big challenge. It's definitely a very negative thing about living in Florida if you're looking to purchase. However, it is what it is. There's a lot of other pros about it, so it's not like people calm down like, oh, I'm not gonna purchase because of insurance, right? It's like, it's a negative thing, but hey, gotta do it, gotta have insurance, right? Something happens, you're covered. The fifth negative thing about living in Florida, talking about insurance, about flood insurance, is gonna be the hurricanes. How negative is it? In my point of view, and I have a lot of clients that ask me this, Hans, what's going on with the floods, with the storms, with the hurricanes? And honestly, like, it's something that's never really bothered me personally. And I'm really not sure if it bothers any of my friends that were raised in Miami just like me. It's not even something that we speak about. It's not even something, we don't even talk about it. I mean, storms don't come that often. I mean, every single year there's hurricane season. Every single year there's some type of little storm. But honestly, I've been here for over 20 years and I've been in a few big storms, but nothing crazy, nothing, thank God, right? But nothing has ever happened not too crazy. Like a few trees got knocked down, maybe a few windows broke. If the roof was really bad, maybe, it turned worse. So there is damages, of course. Light poles coming down, no electricity for a few weeks in some areas. So of course it causes a lot of negative things. For sure, it's definitely a negative thing about living in Florida. However, again, thank God, I mean, I've really never had the issue. A lot of people ask me this. So if you're gonna be living in Florida, hurricane season comes, you just gotta kind of pay attention, right? Everyone will talk about it. It's not like a tornado or earthquake that's just out of nowhere. Thank God, a hurricane, we know days ahead. So you have days of planning. Okay, how big is it gonna be of a storm? Pay attention, ask around. And don't worry, people will tell you what to do, right? But pretty much all I can tell you from my personal experience is if you live in maybe you live in a first floor, or maybe you're in an area that may flood, you're gonna have to probably leave. You're gonna have to probably evacuate is the word, and maybe go up north. If you're like South Florida, maybe you go up north. Maybe you take a plane somewhere else, Or if anything, you have to go to a structure where hey, this seems like a solid structure. I'm safe here. Right? That's what I always done. I've always pretty much gone to a much safer structure than maybe where I lived, because usually I live in the beach, right? So I usually wait to see how big of a storm is gonna be, and then I'm like, if I know it's big, I'm out, right? Of course. Again, nothing negative has happened, but like for instance, in Miami Beach a few years ago, the bridges were closed down for 2 days. For 2 days, the bridges were closed down because it caused a lot of damage. So they were just, the government or the city was just picking up all the trees that were knocked down, the light poles, electricity, they were doing the work, so they didn't want to let anyone in, right? But still, it's definitely a negative thing, and stores are closed, companies are closed, you may not be able to go to work. It definitely shuts everything down. It could be for a day up to a few days, it depends. And again, some areas have no electricity, so it really depends. It could be worse for some people and not as worse for other people, but it's definitely something to keep in mind. The sixth negative thing about moving to Florida is that since there's so much people moving down, like I told you, 800 people per day average moving down to Florida. So Miami gets around 300 and something. I'm assuming Jacksonville gets some, Tampa, Naples, right, Orlando. These are probably the main areas that get all of these people. With all of these new residents coming in, that means lots of demand, right? That means they need properties, they need somewhere to live. What does that mean? More demand. There's very little supply right now, as we all know. Very little inventory, lots of demand. That causes prices to go up. So right now, and definitely a negative thing that I've been seeing about living in Florida, there's so much people coming in, prices are going up like crazy, right? And it's making it somewhat unaffordable for some people, right? I mean, it's not a cheap state to live in. Okay, it's not the cheapest, it's not the most expensive, so I'm not sure what is ranked, but it's up there with one of the most expensive, especially the last 2 years, right? So it's really not the most affordable state, depending on what part of the Florida you go to. I live in the Miami area, and Miami is not really cheap right now. Like in the last year and a half, prices have gone up a lot. Like a rental could probably have gone up from a $1,500 rental is probably around $2,200 right now. A $3,000 rental is definitely around $4,000, $4,500. A property that you could purchase for the $350,000 average homes a few years ago, like the average. Right now they're $450,000, $500,000, and even at that price, you find these properties to be so-so. So definitely, it's a negative thing. It's really not as affordable as it used to be. Of course, that's like everywhere. but it's happening a lot more in the, I'm assuming in Texas and in Florida, which is the two states that are growing the most in the country, right? So prices are increasing, drastically, and it's causing a lot of people to either have to move out or a lot of people to change their living situation, right? So it's definitely a negative thing. So just make sure you know your numbers and you know what you're gonna be doing. I'll be more than happy to help you take a look at those numbers and see what's gonna be the best option for you. Seventh negative thing about living in Florida is gonna be that Florida is flat. You may not think about this as a negative thing. I personally love the mountains. I used to have some views, right? Where I'm from in Argentina, there's a lot of mountains there, a lot of green. You could go and do some trekking, hiking, and just be in the middle of the jungles and the middle of the mountains kind of thing. Here, there's none. There's just beaches, right? Which is could be a pro for some people. Definitely, in my point of view, is negative. I mean, it's all flat. So sometimes it gets a little bit boring, or sometimes, in my point of view, I wish it had like some mountains, or not even just like in Miami, but somewhere in the state. But there's none. The whole state is flat. It's completely flat. So that's just something to keep in mind if you are into mountains and hiking and doing these type of things. The eighth negative thing about living in Florida is gonna be all the tourists that come in. I believe the number was like 130 million people per year that come to Florida, right? I mean, and it definitely makes sense. I mean, you have Miami attracts so much people. The Port of Miami, biggest one in the world. Not sure how many millions of people that attracts per year. You have Orlando, Disney, right? You have Naples, Tampa. There's places up in Gainesville, Jacksonville, Pensacola, the other part, right? The west coast of Florida up north. So there's so much people that come down each year as tourists to Florida. That's definitely a negative thing in my point of view, because depending on the area you're in, sometimes, especially when these holidays or these long weekends, it gets packed. The cities, gets packed. The tourists come, tourism never really takes care of the place like someone that lives there, like a resident does. So it gets kind of out of control in some areas, depending where you are. So it could definitely be a negative thing. So wherever you are moving, wherever you think about moving, just make sure you know what times of the year it gets crazy busy. And then if you live in one of those cities that does get crazy busy, like some parts of Miami, some parts of Orlando, and maybe you want to just stay low, you want to stay home, or even travel those days. So just keep that in mind. The ninth negative thing about living in Florida is going to be bad public transportation. It's terrible. It sucks. That's the reality. It sucks. It's not a place where public transportation is well used. Pretty much everyone has a car. And if you don't have a car, you're kind of, depending where you are, but you may be kind of screwed, right? You're going to need a car. If you're using public transportation, good luck, depending what area you live in. Maybe if you live like, in downtown Miami, or in Brickell and Edgewater, maybe Miami Beach, maybe some areas, like in the heart of a city, St. Petersburg, if you live like right down in downtown, some parts of Orlando, maybe those areas you could get away with not having a car. But other than that, public transportation throughout the whole state kind of sucks, right? It's pretty bad. It's getting better, right? They just opened up the Bright Line train, one of the fastest high-speed trains. It's super modern. I have a video about this. It's amazing. I suggest you go check that out. So pretty much that train goes right now. It goes from downtown Miami all the way to West Palm Beach, and it does have a few stops throughout the way. And the idea is to make it go all the way to Orlando, and then in the future, probably to the West Coast. I believe it was Tampa or Naples. So it's getting better, transportation, but it pretty much sucks compared to other states and other cities throughout the world. It's pretty bad. So just keep that in mind. Hopefully you have a car, and if you don't, hopefully you move to one of the areas where you don't need a car. You can just walk around or Uber around. The 10th negative thing about living in Florida, I'm sure you already know this one, is gonna be the driving, the turbo driving, and the bad traffic. I talk about this in all my videos because I just want you to really understand how bad it is. It really is bad. Lately I've been traveling a lot, and I compare, and I go to Latin America. I've gone to different parts of the Americas. Europe, over there driving is can't even compare it to the Miami. But even in Latin America, you may think, okay, Latin America probably has terrible driving. But honestly, I feel way more worried when I'm driving in the Miami streets and in some parts of Florida than, let's just say, Argentina and Brazil and Colombia and Mexico. I've driven in all these countries, honestly, and I feel way more worried when I am in Florida, right? Like, people are just, everyone is on their phone, driving, not paying attention. I've never seen so much car accidents like I've seen in the highways and the turnpike of Florida, honestly. Like, don't know. I think people just don't pay attention. People are just very distracted on their phones. Not sure what it really is, but definitely the driving is terrible. So just keep that in mind. Definitely a negative thing. You just have to watch out. I mean, cars could be weapons, right? So it's definitely a negative thing, and it's definitely something to worry about, right? So nothing you can do about it other than be conscious, keep your eye out, understand that there's bad drivers around you. So you just gotta anticipate, understand that not everyone uses their blinkers. So you just gotta anticipate and say, this car seems like it's gonna be turning even though it doesn't have the blinkers on. These type of things, right? So you just have to anticipate all these situations and you're gonna be good. Until today, knock on wood, I've had like little baby accidents when I was like 16, 17, just being dumb on the streets. But ever since then, really, thank God, I've never had any accidents. So it's not like it's gonna happen to you, or it's not like it's normal to get into an accident at all. So I'm not trying to scare you, just trying to make you aware that, hey, bad driving over here and traffic is crazy because so much people are moving down. So just please be careful, guys. You know, I don't want the streets and the driving and the traffic to get worse, right? So anyway, guys, really hope this video has helped you determine if all these negative things are okay for you and you can still move down to Florida, or maybe not. Maybe you're like, you know, Hans, a lot of these things are way too negative. I didn't know all these things, or I didn't know, I just wanted to, you know, reassure and rehear it, and I'm not gonna be moving down. Hey, Florida's not for everyone, right? I mean, not everywhere is for everyone. Everywhere has the pros and the cons. So I really hope this video has helped you. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and if you're looking to relocate to the South Florida area, feel free to reach out to us. You have my number here on the screen or in the description. Feel free to reach out at any time. My team and I would love to help you make the move. Thank you so much for watching, and I see you in the next video.